Hey folks, it's Finn. This week's topic is jealousy, specifically jealousy that we as trans people may feel towards cis people. Just to clarify, cisgender is the opposite of transgender. It isn't a slur, it's just a way to differentiate between trans people and cis people. It's most definitely not a slur, and you can check out my recent video on this. Jealousy is something that's come up a lot in my transition, and I spoke about this in a video a couple of years ago, and I shared the ways in which I was trying to overcome the jealousy I was feeling towards cis males. And recently I've noticed how things have begun to change for me. I think in feeling more comfortable in my male identity and in my masculinity, things have really improved, and so I wanted to share that because it's wonderful to know that these things can be overcome. So I wanted to revisit what I spoke about in that video and share the ways in which I think things have changed for me. Feeling jealous is actually very understandable when you think that us trans folk, we have to work really hard to get the body that is ours. You know, we're born in bodies that don't match our gender. And so when you see people who are born with both matching, and especially seeing men, for me in early transition, when I'd see men with their tops off and their scar-free bodies, and the fact that they could go through their own natural puberty at the right age, you know, all of those things, it was really hard not to feel jealous of that. This jealousy understandably made it really awkward to be around men. I would feel really uncomfortable in that I felt like my female was showing. It's the only way I can describe it. The dysphoria I felt around men was so huge that I would just feel very female. I would feel less than a man. I would feel like I didn't know how to act with them, and I just felt that they were so much better than me. And so, ironically, even though I actually got on with men better before my transition, once I began to transition, I found it much harder to connect with men because of this inner feeling of not feeling good enough and wishing I could be like them. I've also begun to realise that all of this confusion I had about whether I was gay or not was more to do with this image of myself of not feeling confident enough as a man. And that then held me back from exploring my identity, from exploring who I might be sexually attracted to. The jealousy and awkwardness around men just made it impossible to explore that side of my sexuality. Being so jealous and awkward around men meant that it was really hard for me to try and even think about dating cis men, really. I was so worried that, you know, if I tried to date a cis man, that he would not see me as a real man, that my body wouldn't be acceptable, and that I couldn't imagine a gay man seeing me as a real man, and that really worried me. And I was also really concerned that if I did date a man, that I'd then feel female in some way, that by being with a man I was back to the years before transition when I used to date men. So it was all this anxiety around jealousy and awkwardness was just making it impossible to both be with men in a platonic sense and to explore dating men. I think this is why my first couple of experiences dating men were with trans men, and I think the reason for that was because it felt more comfortable. It felt safer that men with a trans history were gonna be more likely to accept me and to validate me in a way that a cis man might not. Over the last couple of years, I've become so much more comfortable in my maleness, and I'm loving the fact that I really have settled into myself. As you go through transition, there's this beautiful, surreal thing that happens. In early days, in order to be seen as the man we are, we have to kind of overprove it. So, I mean, I was trying to walk properly like a man, whatever a male walk is, I don't know. I wanted to just wear shirts all the time and have a very basic haircut and speak in a certain way. I was just trying so hard to be seen as the man I was, but in trying so hard, the real me wasn't coming out. And then as I've kind of relaxed over the last few years and become more comfortable in myself, the real inner man's come out. I'm no longer trying to be the man I am, I'm allowing myself to be the man I am. And it just happens that that man is incredibly camp and flamboyant. Not that you can tell. I've really experimented a lot with colours and earrings and jewellery and all sorts of stuff over the last few years, because I've got to this place of knowing I'm a man, whether I'm being arm-wavingly camp or incredibly butch, which in all fairness doesn't happen very often. Whether I'm wearing blue or whether I'm wearing pink, regardless of all of these things, I'm a man, you know. How I express myself is completely separate to who I am. I am a man through and through. The ways in which I choose to express my personality, in my mannerisms, my movements, my clothes, that's no bearing at all on my identity, and coming to know that is a really lovely thing. I can also really see now that what's gone on over the last few years, my journey has kind of led me to this point where I had to be where I am now to explore my sexuality. I had to first overcome those feelings of jealousy before I could even think about dating men. And the way to do that was just to become comfortable in who I am, like I've said, and to just move into this place of acceptance that I won't ever have the chance to have a puberty. I won't ever be an adolescent young man. I will always be a man who has scars and whose body works differently. And moving into acceptance of that and knowing that I'm still a man regardless of all that made it fertile ground then for me to be ready to try and date cisgender males without that crippling jealousy. Meeting and dating Chris, who is a cisgender male, has really affirmed my identity on so many ways. It's wonderful that he just sees me as me. My transness is just a part of my medical history that really doesn't even register for him. As far as he's concerned, I'm just a bloke, and that has been wonderful. So much so that I'd actually pretty much forgotten about the jealousy until something happened recently that really took me by surprise. And I noticed in that moment, on a really deep level, how much things had changed for me in the absence of jealousy. I found myself admiring his willy, as you do, and I noticed that I felt envious of his willy, but not in a painful, jealous way. The jealousy I felt was more like the normal envy that people get. You know, we all do this thing where we look at someone and think, oh, I wish my bum looked like that, or I wish my eyes were that colour, or I wish my shoulders were that broad. You know, all those kind of normal ways in which we just evaluate and compare, and sometimes we wish things of our body were different, but that's all it is. It's not like a real crippling feeling, and that's the difference between uncomfortability with your body and gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is huge, massive and crippling, but this wasn't like that. This was just pain-free jealousy, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, don't get me wrong, my body is not perfect and I'm not in this place of absolute perfection about my body. I do wish that I didn't have scars on my chest. I do wish that my nutsack looked like Chris's. I do wish that my penis got a natural erection rather than having to be pump action. But all of these things now are just wishes. I'm very happy with my body how it is. I've come to a place of acceptance about it how it is. And I know that how it is male. And so I'm now able to look at my partner and other males and appreciate things about them and go, God, I wish I looked like that, without it being huge, crippling jealousy. It's moved definitely into a more healthy, natural envy. And being gay hasn't made me feel any less male either, like I once worried it would. I thought that I would feel female in the presence of a man in a sexual sense, but there's not ever 1 minute I feel anything other than male when I'm with Chris. I mean, he even jokes around and calls me girlfriend, you know, like gay men do this kind of thing, and it doesn't bother me at all. Once upon a time that really would have done, but not at all, you know, and it's just lovely to see, because I hadn't really noticed. It's happened so slowly over these last few years that this jealousy has just pretty much left my life. So how have I got to this point? I think it's exactly that. It's small steps. It's a gradual process of time moving forward as we become more comfortable in who we are, more certain of who we are. It first starts with accepting that the jealousy you feel is valid, and there's a reason for that. It's not that person's fault, of course, but it's our natural process of just grieving for what we couldn't have. and letting go of what we couldn't have so that we can then have space to accept what we do have and learn to love it. And I think that's what's happened over the last few years. I've become more comfortable in the body that I have as it's grown and changed and evolved, and it's marked and it's not perfect, but it's mine and it works. And that gradual ability to love myself and accept myself is then meaning I'm not looking at other men and wishing I was them. You know, that's how it's happened. And then in turn, the more comfortable you get with your body, the easier it is to interact with others. And then that ease of interaction then feeds back because those people are responding to me as the man I know myself to be. So then it all goes in a circle. The more self-love I have, the more other people reflect that love and acceptance back to me, and this beautiful big circle of growth and evolution towards a more stable sense of who I am and an absence of jealousy for what I perceived I was missing until this point. So if you are feeling jealous of cis males or of other trans people that are further ahead in their transition, this is normal. Don't kick yourself for feeling like that. It's part of the process. Accepting it means first feeling it. You can't accept something if you're shoving it away. You have to let it in, feel it, let it go. And just trust that it will move in time. Concentrate on your own process of confidence and self-esteem, and as that gets higher, the jealousy and enviness will get much lower, and I promise you will arrive at a place that is much more peaceful and jealous-free. Trust me. Well, I do hope that was helpful. Do feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and if you feel it would help anybody else, you are always more than free to share my videos wherever you like. Share the love. Is this something you've experienced? Have you had problems with jealousy? Are you experiencing jealousy now? How are you managing it? Do you have any tips, advice for other people? It would be lovely to hear your stories and experiences, so do feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. I'd love that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be kept up to date with all of the regular installments. Bye bye.